What if I told you that some of history's most feared pirates were not criminals at all but licensed entrepreneurs? That the skull and crossbones was sometimes just a logo, and that behind many acts of piracy stood kings, queens, parliaments, and state treasuries? Here is the mystery. How did governments that claim to defend law and order build empires by outsourcing theft? And why does this system of state-sponsored looting keep returning under new names? To understand modern power, modern finance, and even modern warfare, we have to return to the age of pirates, not the myth, but the machinery behind them. Welcome to its financial history too. The popular image of pirates is simple: lawless men, wooden legs, eye patches, and buried treasure. But the real story is far more disturbing. From the 16th to the 18th century, Europe was in a near-constant state of war. Spain, England, France, and the Dutch Republic were fighting over trade routes, colonies, and access to global wealth. War required ships, sailors, weapons, and time, things that cost enormous amounts of money. Most governments didn't have the taxes or institutions to fund large permanent navies. So they found a shortcut. Instead of paying for fleets themselves, governments issued legal documents called letters of marque. These papers gave private ship owners official permission to attack enemy vessels, seize their cargo, and keep a large share of the profits. These men were known as privateers. On paper, privateers were patriots serving their country. In practice, they were pirates with legal protection. This created a powerful cause-and-effect chain. Governments reduced costs and risk. Private individuals gained access to enormous profits. Violence became not only acceptable but economically rational. Looting was no longer a crime, it was policy. England perfected this system. When Queen Elizabeth I faced the vast wealth and naval power of Spain, she couldn't compete directly. Instead, she authorized men like Francis Drake to strike Spanish treasure fleets. Drake's raids brought in staggering amounts of silver and gold. He was celebrated as a hero, knighted by the Queen herself, and his stolen wealth helped stabilize England's finances and fund its future navy. Success encouraged imitation. France, the Netherlands, and even Spain itself adopted similar strategies. Entire port cities began to depend on captured goods. Shipbuilders, insurers, financiers, and merchants all profited from the flow of stolen cargo. War became a business ecosystem. Privateering introduced an early corporate structure. Investors funded ships. Crews were paid in shares rather than wages. Risk was spread, and profit was the primary motive. The more ships captured, the richer everyone involved became. During wartime, privateers sometimes outnumbered national navies. They struck quickly, unpredictably, and without the bureaucratic limits of state fleets. For a time, the system worked brilliantly. But this success planted the seeds of collapse. When wars ended, governments revoked letters of marque. The legal justification for looting disappeared overnight. But the men didn't vanish. Thousands of sailors were left unemployed. They still had ships. They still had weapons. They still knew the trade routes, and more importantly, they knew where the money was. This is how piracy exploded. Men who had once been heroes simply continued doing what they had always done, just without official permission. The transition from privateer to pirate was often seamless. Figures like Blackbeard, Charles Vane, and Calico Jack were not wild anomalies. They were products of the system. The cause and effect now reversed. By legalizing looting, states had normalized it. Once normalized, it could no longer be easily controlled. Pirates no longer respected flags or treaties. They attacked everyone. Trade began to suffer. Insurance costs soared. Merchants demanded protection. Suddenly, piracy was no longer a useful tool. It was a threat to the very system that created it. Governments responded with force. Public executions were staged as warnings. Captured pirates were hanged, their bodies displayed in iron cages along busy harbors. New laws declared piracy a crime against all nations. Naval patrols expanded. The same states that once praised privateers now portrayed pirates as enemies of civilization. But the lesson wasn't learned. The system wasn't dismantled, it was rebranded. In 1856, European powers formally banned privateering through international agreements. On paper, state-sponsored piracy was over. In reality, it had simply evolved. Private looting was replaced by chartered corporations and state-backed enterprises. The British East India Company became the most extreme example. It was a private business with its own army, its own taxation system, and direct political authority. It conquered territories, extracted resources, and reshaped entire societies, all while operating for profit under government protection. Once again, the pattern repeated. Risk was outsourced. Wealth flowed upward. Accountability disappeared. This structure didn't end with colonial empires. It adapted to the modern world. Today, state-sponsored looting no longer flies black flags. It operates through contracts, legal frameworks, and financial systems. Private military contractors fight wars for profit. Corporations extract resources in unstable regions with state backing. Financial institutions benefit from crises created by political decisions. Sanctions and asset seizures are enforced selectively, often transferring wealth rather than protecting people. The same logic drives it all. When the state provides legal cover, private actors extract value. When instability spreads, the costs are socialized. When profits are made, they are concentrated. The data tells the same story. Modern wars rely heavily on contractors. Reconstruction often costs more than combat. Profits rise as chaos increases. Just like the age of privateers, instability becomes a feature, not a flaw. Piracy, in its pure form, was never just criminal behavior. It was economic strategy. Outsourcing violence always seems efficient until it escapes control. And once profit becomes tied to destruction, reform becomes almost impossible. The names change, the ships disappear, the costumes evolve, but the structure remains. So here is the uncomfortable question to sit with. If piracy is simply theft made legal by power, how much of today's global economy rests on the same foundation? Empires didn't abandon looting. They learned how to write laws around it. And the most dangerous pirates may no longer sail the seas. They may sign contracts, shape policy, and call it order. If this changed the way you think about pirates, power, or profit, share it with someone who still believes piracy is just a story from the past. Subscribe for more deep cause and effect histories that expose how the systems around us were really built. Because the past isn't gone. It's just been legalized.